Welcome back, everybody. If you had a chance to watch a hearing in Congress earlier this week on the toll that the fentanyl crisis has taken on American families, you probably saw our next guest. He gave some of the most compelling testimony. You could hear a pin drop as lawmakers were listening to him speak. He's the former Special Operations Chief at the Drug Enforcement Agency Administration, and he joins us right now, Derek Maltz Sr. Derek, great to have you on the show again, sir.
Thank you for having me back.
I heard your testimony. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was so compelling. I want to just play one little soundbite and then get your reaction to it. Let's roll that tape, please.
The president should immediately declare a national security and public health emergency. Let's make that clear, because we have chemical substances all over our streets. These are not overdoses. In my view, fentanyl is a chemical weapon, and the narco-terrorists in Mexico are destroying our country. They need to be held accountable, even if it means using our U.S. military.
Wow, that stopped everybody in their tracks. I know you've been saying this for years, but that moment I saw a lot of people go, all right, I get it. This is a chemical attack on America. Do you think the members of Congress walked away with the courage they need to take the next steps?
Some of them may have. I know Michael Waltz and Dan Crenshaw are now calling for the use of the military.
Yeah.
But the reality is, John, it's like we got to get over that this is not the typical opioid addiction, which is a legitimate, issue, and there's so many people that need help. But this is something different. We've never experienced it in the history of the country, and that's kind of my point. Like, at what point do you go after the production labs with Mexico, or maybe without Mexico, if they don't want to help us out, save American lives? So I'm very adamant that we're not going to seize our way out of this. We're not going to put people in jail and stop this crisis. Too much money is to be made. So that's my concern. We have to do things looking out for our kids first.
Sir, you mentioned some Republicans who you think, hearts and minds might change. My concern is that folks in this administration, people who have a D next to their name, won't, because just this week, again, AG Merrick Garland before the Senate Judiciary Committee said that he felt like this was on purpose by the Mexican cartels and that the Mexican government could be doing more to help. I'm sorry, I don't understand the disconnect for Democrats and folks who are proponents of open borders when they see testimonies like yours.
Well, look, great point, Amanda. That's why in an earlier meeting I had with Congress, I basically put out there that the president himself has said that the drug crisis is an unusual, extraordinary threat to national security. And now today with AG, or yesterday, this week, AG Garland is saying, they're deliberately doing this. So why then would you leave the borders wide open for them to continue to dump the poison in our country? It makes no sense.
Yeah, that is such a poignant reminder to folks. This we have so much power in our hands to stop this. We're simply not executing it. I want to take it back to the precursors, because it ain't just the Mexican cartels that are waging war in America. China, through the production and delivery of these precursor chemicals that are essential to make fentanyl, they're directly involved in this. Have we done anything to send a message to China? And if not, what message should we deliver?
John, so let me tell you this. That's why I'm so passionate, because when I was at the Special Operations Division, I watched how the Chinese started sending the synthetic cannabinoids and the cathinones, K2
right.
spice bath salts, then the fentanyl. So it's obvious to me what they're doing. And that's the thing. It's been going on over 10 years, 12 years. But the thing is that China's not even taking our calls now. And we have to be way more aggressive with not only Mexico, but with China, with all these things going on with the virus, with the cyber attacks. I mean, It's nonstop. And you're stealing intellectual property. The kids now in America on the visas are picking up millions of dollars from the from the cartel operatives. Let's start looking at shutting down visas. But unfortunately, John, I don't want to be too optimistic, because the laptop from hell is going to prevent President Biden from really getting involved with any of that stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. Derek,
and all the business deals.
Yeah.
Sure. I want to ask you about another country because another story came across my radar in the last few days. El Salvador, for those who don't know, for a very long time was the murder capital of the world, but that number is tanking because their president has instituted what a lot of people call a super prison, where they are finally, crushing crime in their state. I think that they said they only had one murder in the last week in all of El Salvador. I hate that we have to rely on other countries. And of course, this affects us because we have El Salvadorians coming across our southern border. I hate that we have to rely on other countries to help us fix our security problem. But are there other outside the box means that we can secure our border if and until the Biden administration decides to do so?
Well, again, I'm not a border expert, but a lot of my friends, former Homeland Security experts from DHS, just go back to some of the policies that worked with the Remain in Mexico, okay? Simple things. These asylum fraudulent claims are out of control. Yeah. And there's things that can be done without additional resources. Of course, building a wall with the technology and the sensors is definitely going to be something that I would recommend, but that's not going to happen right away. So you have to start working with these Central American and Mexico to actually implement, and adhere, hold them accountable to adhere to these policies that worked. And so unfortunately, I don't see that happening right now. They're being very deceitful, like this whole argument about all the drugs are coming through the POE. What about this month alone? They seized was it like 325 pounds of fentanyl?
They did.
The Border Patrol in between the ports of entry that you don't even hear about.
Nope. Yep. Enough to kill the whole West Coast. Isn't that crazy? And hardly a word about it. Derek, we got about a minute left. I know your patriotism and your service to country drives a lot what you do, but I also know you are impassioned for the families who've had their children and their loved ones poisoned. You were with them on set with the congressional testimony. Tell us a little bit about those amazing people.
Here's the Love Logan Foundation. Here's Logan from Wisconsin. His mother testified today, Erin Rockwell. The husband was there. These families are not only desperate to try to save lives, they don't understand a couple of things. They don't understand why there's no sense of urgency from the White House on the death and destruction of our kids. They don't understand why the terror cartels, as I call them, are operating with impunity with China. And they don't understand why social media companies can filter and could censor people's voices, but they're not shutting down these criminals on our social media, on their social media platforms. John, I had a guy last week call me on sextortion. His kid killed himself because a Nigerian crime ring got him on Instagram.
That's so wrong. So wrong.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, one thing I know of, your common sense, your clarity is helping this country. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for everything you're doing to inform Congress in this country. It's a great honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your work.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages.